Welcome to the Reparenting Daily podcast. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into reparenting, exploring tools and resources to help us through our journey. The podcast is divided into 3 sections. First is a reading. Second is a discussion of the reading, followed by a journal prompt. And the last section is a peaceful meditation for closing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whenever and wherever you are joining us today. Today's reading is from the Tower Fully Feeling by Pete Walker. This one is familiar. It's a really excellent book. I strongly suggest that you get the books from Pete Walker. They are really, really excellent. And if you're dealing with CPTSD or similar conditions and symptoms, it's really one of the best pieces of literature that I've found. And so definitely give it a look. It's called The Tao of Fully Feeling, T-A-O, by Pete Walker. You will find the title and author's name in the show notes as usual. But let's get started today. Today's reading section is called Our Parents' Uncried Tears Became Their Rage. When inward life dresses up, when feeling decreases and apathy increases, when one cannot affect or even genuinely touch another person, violence flares up as a demonic necessity for contact, a mad driving force touched in the most direct way possible. This is a quote from Rollo May. The reading continues. Many of our parents were physically abused as children and not allowed to release their pain through crying. Many came to over-rely on angering as their only means of releasing emotional pain. No amount of angering or raging, however, can sever the releasing function of tears, can serve the releasing function of tears. In fact, rage in the place of tears only begets more rage, for it exacerbates loneliness and isolation of the perpetrator. There's actually some truth in the sickening expression, "This hurts me more than it hurts you," for our parents' abusiveness also injured them. Their mistreatment of us diminished or destroyed our capacity to have authentic, loving feelings for them. Checkmate. I added that in, sorry, I'll keep going with the reading. Many of us, then, are indirectly the victims of social pressures that forced our parents to repress their pain until it accumulated and transmuted into rage. The pain into rage syndrome is rife in our society and is customarily passed down from generation to generation. It has created great gulfs of unwept tears and huge chasms of enmity between the generations. We live in a culture where there is so little true sympathy between parents and children that there are probably few readers who cannot poignantly remember thinking they were adopted orphans or given to the wrong parents when taken out of the hospital nursery. Did you ever fantasize when you were young about the redemptory return of your real parents who would surely be more loving and appreciative than those adults who were poisoning you, who were posing as your mom and dad? William Stafford wrote poignantly about this notion. If you were exchanged in the cradle and your real mother died without ever telling the story, then no one knows your name. Who are you really, wanderer? And the answer you have to give, no matter how dark and cold the world around you is, maybe I'm a king. Thank you. And that's the reading for today. Thanks for being here. guys, welcome back. This is a really great reading. I love the poem or the quote at the end by William Stafford. Who are you really, wanderer? And the answer you have to give, no matter how dark and cold the world around you is, maybe I'm a king. As soon as I read this, it reminded me of the Robert Greene 48 Laws of Power. To be treated like a king, act like one. This is very much true. We have to be careful not to take it too far, to be narcissistically abusive, or to stretch this capacity, but it is very much true that we teach people how to treat us. And if you're walking around like a peasant, like a victim, then I'm sorry to say to you that is simply going to be a signal for more predators to come and attack you, because we live in a society where the weak, the vulnerable, are seen as easy prey for abuse and violence and targeting. What's even more ironic is that in the society that we live in, with its duplicitous standards of morality and being kind and caring, this society actually celebrates abusers. It actually celebrates perpetrators of violence, for the most part, not 100%. Nothing is always, but for the most part, people love the abuser. They don't even pity the victim. They see them just as an easier target for continued abuse. So there is a lot of truth in this quote and in Robert Greene's reinterpretation and his rule in the 48 Laws of Power: to be treated like a king, act like one. This conversation has left far beyond the topic of the reading because I am so stuck on the last quote. Stuck in the fear of people, even though I hate to say that. It's not fear to me, it's just the anticipation of bad things, because in my life experience, people are not normally bringing good things, but they're bringing violence and bullying and teasing and dehumanization, because that's what I've attracted up to this point in my life. Because of what I'm projecting, I have not been living like a king and projecting that. I've been living as a peasant, and it's time to change that. Now, I'm not attacking myself for my vulnerabilities. Self-compassion, as we discussed, is one of the most important skill sets and capabilities that must be available in order to pursue healing. And so today, going back to this reading, entitled "Our Parents' Uncried Tears Became Their Rage." How do you recognize this in your parents? Are you able, or first of all, do you have sufficient knowledge of their histories, their childhoods, their life experiences to understand or perceive their uncried tears? Are you able to make the connection to how that inspired their rage? Because this CPTSD, this continued abuse, it forces us into this victimized, beat down position. And unfortunately to say, if we keep projecting that into our society, we are simply going to attract more abuse. And that abuse is going to turn into rage. And so we have to find a way to cut off this pattern before it increases us, or increases our feelings of rage to a point that we can no longer stand them. And so today, one last reflection that you might have is, how is your stock of uncried tears, your unacknowledged pain, your stuffed emotion? Does it come out in rage? I know mine certainly does. And I'm working on that day by day. Because to display your rage, as much as I hate to mention this, but is a sign of inferiority and weakness. This is coming from a quote from Dr. Adler, the psychological researcher of attachment theory, Alfred Adler. Because if people have the capacity to trigger you or spur you into your emotions, then you're not in control. you are less powerful and therefore technically inferior. I hate to say that, but it does ring some truth. And so today, reflect on your rage, your uncried tears, and also the pain and uncried tears and rage of your parents. Step back and reflect on how that's impacted your life, how your own is impacting your life. Perhaps you have a significant other that you live with, or people in your proximity for who you need to be aware of as well. Reflect on this today so we can avoid this cycle. That's it for today. Thanks for being here as usual, and take care of yourself. And now, let us move on to the final section, the meditation. This is an unguided meditation. I will simply provide some music and you can take some time to relax. Please feel free to choose a location and a place where you feel safe and where you can be undisturbed for the next 10 minutes. You can choose to be sitting down, standing, as you like, wherever you are most comfortable. Thank you for being here and enjoy the meditation.